We'll do it again. All right. Welcome to RSG One Mic with Hank and DeVon. Hey, it's another segment that we're gonna get into. We got a lot going on, but we're gonna be like Chris Berman. This is gonna be one of them blitzes through sports conversations. But you feel like the barber is cutting your hair real fast tonight. That's kind of how we get down. But before I get into it, I gotta check Hank out. How you doing, Hank? I see you got them Tigers, but are them Tigers gonna do anything? I see you got the Wolverines back there. I want to shout out to Boyd College.
Let me tell you, the Morality Broncos.
Oh, see, there we go. We representing
the hard. Let me tell y'all something, okay? Let me tell y'all something. This is what happens when you're doing sports in your laundry room. Okay, I'm gonna tell you right now. See, you can't have your drawers hanging up for the whole world to see. You see what I'm saying, D? Y'all know what it's all about. Y'all, we for all these times, y'all can hear our voices. We could be any kind of way. Now we got to clean up for you. I got to shave. I got to get right. See, so I can't have y'all be looking around and say, man, how is that brother living? Where you living in a box? So I got to let y'all know I got my gear out here. So we got to do it right. You know what I'm saying? Some of our offices look worse than our bedrooms. I can't let y'all in there either.
No, I can't even look at it. If I had this camera around with oh my goodness, I'm stepping on everything.
Can't let y'all sit. This ain't reality TV.
But that's why they call us RSG, Real Sports Guys. We being real. We're not playing.
That's a real laundromat. That's a real washing machine. I'm not lying to y'all.
That's it.
But God, take the time, D, because we missed it last week.
Okay.
We missed saying Happy Mother's Day to all of those beautiful mothers out there. Those mothers out there that nurtured us and comfort us and encouraged us. We want to wish all of you ladies a very belated Happy Mother's Day. And we also have to take the time to say happy day to them real mothers out there. See, we forgot that last week, so we had to bring that back.
Yeah, and we know we normally hit that kind of stuff. Both of we get hit over the head. Mamas hit you over the head with that kind of stuff. So we are happy. We wouldn't be here without it. I had to make sure Mama got her stuff early.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't live in the same city, you make sure she get it on Saturday. So even if she can't connect with you, she got it. So we real sports guys, but we've been influenced by a lot of women in our lives, and so that's why he's the elder. He the elder on this, making sure we stand in line with it.
You better stay in line, okay? I'm telling you, you don't want that strap across your back at our age. It don't feel good.
It don't feel good. We don't recover like we used to.
Like we used to.
We just we got that recovery period. Be like,
we don't recover like we used to, boy.
Be like a Negro slave up in
I'm still feeling that from February.
So we got a lot going on. This is the RSG One Mic, and this is part of our RSG Live in the Lounge. So if you get the chance to watch this as part of the excerpt, that's our subscription space. We putting really high content in it. We're trying to build the underground community. It's where over time we want to have a space for sports experts, researchers, whatever, to engage with real sports fans. And we're just starting this like underground. It's kind of like we got imagine Pearl Jam playing in the garage in front of their friends. That's kind of what we starting out with. Earth, Wind, and Fire was when they were just earth, no wind, no fire. But you can get to that at rsg.mn.co. But then we're real sports guys on all media platforms that we know about, because we not like them youngins. We ain't on every platform, but we on Instagram, we on Twitter, we on Facebook, we on the main core group. Y'all youngins I'm on Snapchat too. I'm trying to snap and chat on it. Right. So we in those spaces. You can catch us. We on YouTube. We got some YouTube stuff out there if you want to catch us on that, where we're putting excerpts of this content out there as well. And then obviously you can get our audio long-time catalog we got on iTunes, and we're on Blog Talk Radio. So you can catch us on a number of platforms. We encourage you to follow us wherever you do. Please like us. Give us that 5, like the 5 fingers of death on Sway in the morning, but give us 5. We want 5s and great reviews. we're not trying to be the next, ESPN or whatever. Even though we got our colleagues over there, Tony Contiano over there, ESPN Madison, folks like that. We just underground. We underground, so you never know what might happen. We might have somebody jump into the screen. We might have a third person on the screen. We don't know how to do all this stuff. We just do it the best way we can. We're gonna try and give you what we can give you, but we're gonna talk sports, and we always have a sports intersection of life. On some of our other platforms, we have other podcasts. So Hank does this incredible podcast on baseball called Inside the Park. This is more than just cybermetrics. This is more than just about the analytics of baseball. He's trying to put the story and the heart back, and he's evolving that. And we're looking to do some great stuff on that platform. It's Hank and I get in the lab, but we keep offering that. Hopefully we can get some of the old school early cats who was on the show back to do some excerpts with us around that. But it really brings a different kind of conversation to the world of baseball. We have Hustle and Flows, Marcus and Sekou, intersection between hip hop and sports. It's an incredible opportunity for you to hear some great guys. Both Marcus and Sekou are off the chart, brilliant. But how they weave this into the world of sports is incredible. If you can check out some of our old catalog on Apple Podcasts or on Blog Talk Radio, some other platforms, they are incredible. Sekou has this annual list where he has his top 10 albums of the year. He's been doing this for a long time. Native New York. So they think they got the whole deal on what the essence of hip hop is up. But he's really open about it. He's not he's not doing the kind of generational jab, but he built this year's list on the offensive line. If you were building an offensive line with that list, which top 10 person would be this, or how you would build an offensive line using some of the top albums of 2017. It's a pretty brilliant concept when you hear him break it down. And we have a podcast. We talked to him about it, but the list is out there. If you're trying to catch us at realsportsguys.com, I am moving that. We're going to drop it. So you might search, you might see some other things. Some of you got folks who've been following us. I always got something going on. When we release it, we might have to have a release party. We release it. I got some folks working on. We in the lab. We're trying to integrate all these platforms. Because we starting out like a little engine that could. We kind of like Russell Simmons and those cats in the NYU dorm room, just trying to figure out what rush management was going to become. That without all the other activity, Russ, you was doing. We ain't doing all that. But we're talking about the concept of hip hop and in that. So we got all these platforms going. One mic is one of them. The big show we got with Phil and Marcus. We'll get that going back. It's getting the summer league, so we definitely got to hear what Marcus got to say about summer. Marcus got me in the summer league so bad. I love summer league almost as much as the season. It's so fun. We might even have to take, if it's not, in a year or so, maybe we gonna have to go on location. Summer league, RSG on location in Vegas, doing summer league. Maybe we got to do that. That's a vision right there. That if Marcus would be like a kid in a candy store. He wouldn't know what to do. So we got a whole bunch of stuff, and we'll have more that we're gonna push down. But we love if you can become part of this RSG Live lounge that we're developing. I think it's going to be an incredible experience without all of the people trolling you and everything else. We can just have an intelligent conversation with a little bit of laugh and have it on it in that space with some great video content interviews. We already got an interview up there with Doug Fisher, which was an incredible video. You might have seen the excerpt of that out there. You can see some our recent one mic we've been doing on video. We got the full podcast sessions on there. You might have seen some excerpts that Hank and I've done. So that's where we're at. So enough with all that. The NBA season has taken a twist. So Hank, I'm on Twitter. My Twitter game is getting a little bit better, stepping up. I hit him with a little bit of jab every once in a while. Okay. So I was thinking, I was out. Shout out to everybody at Rutgers. Thanks for hosting me out there. I had a chance to do a program review out there. Enjoy that campus. Love New Brunswick out there. So I was out in New Brunswick, had a little time on my hand, and I was watching these games and watching Boston and then watching the West Coast game. And last night kind of came to me, especially after Houston won. Houston beating Golden State last night was the look I saw in their face was was almost to look like Rocky had at the moment when he cut Drago and realized Drago was human. it was that moment, and the brother was in the corner like, I told you, nothing but a man. He's human. He said, yelling at the corner, and Rocky was getting in, and it kind of been a turn of the tables. It was going to be, you knew it was going to be a battle. You knew it was going to be a battle from that point on. The East kind of looked like the moment when Rocky got first hit by Clubber Lang and realized everything that Mickey was telling him was true. And he just got overwhelmed. You remember how he got so overwhelmed?
Yeah.
You know, Clubber, the scene was like he was just beating him down. And he kept getting back up. He kept beating him down. He was kind of hitting him with the jab. He kept beating him down. Boston is officially known as Clubber Lang. I pity the fool. Try to take what I got. Man, what is going on? You and I talked about this last week, and I know we were talking about this in prep for the show, but what are your observations of this, man?
You know, we talked about this, and what we said was, when you asked, I said, what do you think is going to happen in this series? What I said was, I thought that Boston was going to be scrappy, and we was going to see some of the same basketball. But I said that Cleveland has LeBron James. LeBron James is one of the best players in his era, okay, if not the best player in his era. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was enough to get them through the series. Now, we were absolutely right, D. We was absolutely right. Why were we absolutely right? Because LeBron James came to play. But like you said that, what you said was that Boston is officially Clubber Lang, and the Cleveland Cavaliers is officially Smokey Robinson and the Miracle. Okay? You got Smokey Robinson, Tears of a Clown, Ooh Baby Baby, and you got the Miracles. I'm just a love machine, and I won't work for nobody but you. Yeah. This is what you got. This is what you got. Smokey gonna do his thing. Okay? Smokey gonna have you. He's worth the price of admission. Okay? Smokey can play. He can sing without the Miracles. He gonna have a great career without the Miracles. And then you have the Miracles. Okay, and this is what you got with Cleveland.
Smokey and the Miracles.
You got Smokey Robinson, pause, and the Miracles. And this is the problem that you got with Cleveland. The man had 41 points. He had a triple-double. First of all, for those of you who didn't know, he worked out before game 2. Did LeBron. He did his interview after a full-scale workout. Still came out that night, hung 41 points on Boston last night. Had a triple-double, all right? And they lost by 13 points. That means that none of the other Miracles can sing harmony. None of the other Miracles can rebound. None of the other Miracles can – I mean, Kyle Korver started out like he wanted to do a little bit of lead singing, okay? But then after a while, his voice got shot. All right, you following this here?
Yeah.
This is what we saw. Now, what you got now is how much better can LeBron play? Who can he count on going into the rest of these 2 games? Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not by any stretch of the imagination calling for a sweep or anything, because like you said, Scary Terry and all those guys showed up in the 4th quarter. Okay, in the first half, this looked like this was going to be 1-1 going back to Cleveland.
That's right.
But oh, by the way, all right, again, you had Smokey Robinson and the Miracles. Okay, and when Smokey got hurt, his voice got thrown, when he hurt his neck, you had the Miracles had to take over, get back into the game. Next thing you know, here come Clubber Lang with them lefts and rights. So this is what you had in this series, mm-hmm. All right? And this is what we have to look at. This is the narrative we need to look at. You know, who else is going? Who's going to be that next lead singer? You know how I like using these
That's right.
Singers, right? I got to do what I do. But I'm just saying, you know. So this is what I saw. This is what I saw. Now everybody and their mama knew that LeBron was going to come out and he was going to ball.
That's right.
Everybody knew that. But lo and behold, you know, everybody, including the rest of the Cavaliers, watched him play.
That's right.
Okay? And so there you have it. And there right there is the narrative of the entire rest of the Eastern Conference, okay? Unless somebody else steps up and sustains that. That's where they're missing Kyrie right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That's where they're missing Kyrie. Kyrie would get that impossible shot for you and help you close out a series. Okay? LeBron has got to take this whole thing on by himself, and Boston is not a bad basketball team. And,
Well,
and they're playing very, very balanced basketball.
See, I just moved to the corner. I just let you take the ISO. It was like you were James Harden, and we just let you play pick and roll. I was just over in the corner like a Ariza, like. If someone said this, and it's probably right, it's crazy that the Danny Ainge move to get Kyrie appears so much more brilliant because Kyrie still hurts Cleveland more, and Boston isn't hurt. It's like Boston still keeps moving. It's like they put Kyrie in the witness protection program. He hurt, right? And it's just like it's a double move. You would think that could turn out to be a bad trade move, and everything is looking bad for the Cavs, other than the fact they got this pick that might be coming up. But before we'll get to that. But so then when you take it out west, because you're right. I mean, you're smoking. You're Motown. You could have named any group in the Motown era. I mean, that was the whole thing. You would always have, some lead singer at some point was going to break away. Barry's going to make his money. He wasn't going to Wu-Tang this one. And
right.
Then when you go west, it's crazy because now you it almost feels like the playoffs. Well, I'm not going to take that from Boston because Boston wins. I'm not even betting against Boston. So you go west, it's like everybody says this is kind of like the finals, and then Houston just gets after game one. You just like, man, Houston just all that work, and they just like they just got played. It was almost, I felt like every team that came out of Seattle, Gary Payton was my guy. Those cats used to kill it in a regular season, get in the playoffs sometimes. They had lost to Denver. They finally made it to the finals, but it was the style they played in the regular season wasn't going to translate when it came to elite teams in the playoffs, right? And you thought that was the thing. And then Houston is giving it to them. Houston is ball movement. They got people touching the ball. The others are getting involved. It's not as much ISO. It feels like D'Antoni has got his rotations down so that he's got some rotations going a little bit better. And that's working. So it feels like there is, they've made a little bit of adjustment. All right. They're going the crossover that Paul did on Steph Curry was ridiculous. And this is the other thing I'm going to say. I love Steph Curry. I've loved Steph Curry since he was in college. I've always been a great Steph Curry fan. I think this is a kid. There are some people who just got a natural gift towards greatness. He has some natural gifts, but he also had he built himself into being great. He didn't stop with a setback and allowed it to set him back. He tried to figure out how to alter stuff to put him into greatness, to maximize everything he has to be there. He improved he knew how to improve on defense. And part of what he did, he just became a better team defender. He knew where his help was. It wasn't like he was better ball on defender. He's got some videos where he's gotten crossed over. He's got embarrassed, but he comes right back. He ain't too cool for school when it comes to that. So I can appreciate that. But people make more excuses about Steph ain't Steph. None of those excuses happen for LeBron at all. But if Steph has a bad game, they quick to say he's hurt or they use an injury or whatever. LeBron has a bad game. KD, they just like LeBron got a bad game. They no injury. He don't got banged on his neck, and you still have people will come out and be critical of him and everything else. Steph gets more excuses from people. Now he doesn't give excuses. That's what I'm saying. He doesn't. But people feel like they need to give him excuses and give things. I hear more people saying he wasn't right more than they gave him the business. They doing to him what Cleveland did. They know he's a weak link. They're going to go at whoever he's guarding. They're going to make him work on defense. whoever he's got, he's going to be in the screen and roll. Steph is going to have to defend. I mean, that's what Cleveland did. That's what Kyrie and LeBron was doing to them. Every time they would get the matchup. The game winner that Kyrie hit was off of a switch, and his eyes got big. His eyes got big. He was like, and Steph knew it was about to happen. It was one of the moments where he's like, I'm about to be history. I'm about to be made into a historical moment. And so, but then KD is KD. They held Draymond down in scoring. They held him quiet. Capella was defending KD a little bit, making it hard on him. And then from time to time, you have Thompson, Clay will go into witness protection program. So and they turn the ball over. They've turned the ball over a lot this season. They've been historically turning the ball over. A team like Houston turn the ball over, turns into points. And so you could and you can see that Kerr is frustrated. Is this just a blip? Is this just a blip that is going to right itself as soon as they get back to Oracle, or do you think Houston's game can travel? I mean, they've beaten them there, but can it travel for this?
Here's what I saw, and I'm going to do something that I didn't think I was going to do in the Western Conference this year. I'm going to give Mike D'Antoni some credit, okay? Even though I put him on my can't trust him list.
Oh, yeah, he's on our coaches can't trust him list.
He's still on our can't trust him list. But I got to give him some credit for this and this alone, even though it may not be him that we're giving credit to. But you just mentioned very clearly the changes and the adjustments that Houston made from game 1 to game 2, okay? In game 1, and by the way, the first quarter of game 1 had to be one of the most entertaining first quarters I've seen in the NBA all year. That was some of the best shooting I have seen in an NBA game.
Yes.
Those cats was coming down and launching it from anywhere on the floor. There was a
That's right.
row with 4 people on them, 2 people were spilling beer on them, and still draining nothing but the bottom of the net.
That's right.
I had no rooting interest. But they had me running around the house with some of the shots they was making. I mean, KD came down with a man right in his nose, right up in his nostrils. He had to have deviated septum. He had a deviated septum. The man was in his nose so much and still hit nothing but the bottom of the net. It was absolutely entertaining. I'm like, this is crazy. And Houston came out heavy and strong.
That's right.
Golden State came back. What Houston did in the first game was, revert back to old habits, bad habits. Okay, we gonna play Smokey Robinson and the Miracles on the West Side. We gonna let James Harden play the role of David Ruffin. They were the Temptations. Okay, we're gonna go back Motown. Houston was the Temptations. All right, you following me here, right?
I'm following you.
David Ruffin wanted to do all the lead singing. Okay, in the first game. All right, and guess what? They got beat. In the second game, you realize you got Eddie Kendricks. You realize you got Paul Williams. And for some of y'all, I'm really dating myself. For some of y'all, I'm giving y'all something. But trust me when I tell you, these are the Temptations, okay? You even got a little bit of Dennis Edwards in there, all right? So you got cats that can do their thing. But you let them sit on the sideline and just do their doo-wop in game 1 and you got beat. Now you come out, you play a little bit of defense. The one thing that they started out this series saying what they're going to do is they're going to attack Stephon Curry, okay? They said Steph Curry is going to attack him on the offensive side, all right? They thought that he was the weak link to get to the hole, and Chris Paul is just turning him into a poster all the time, okay? So they're trying to get those matchups, that matchup all the time. So we did see that. They tried to do that more in the first game, but in game 1. But what they didn't do was share the basketball, okay? It went into the black hole, which was the beard. All right. And in the second game, clearly it was a big difference. They were sharing the ball, as you stated. They played better defense and stuff. And so, and the irony behind all of that was you had some of the commentators talking about Golden State possibly being one of the better defensive teams in the NBA this year. Yet in game 2, they gave up 127 points. All right. So that tells you all you need to know. Houston is a more formidable opponent. I don't think it was so much of a blip. The point I'm getting to was there was adjustment to Houston's game plan, which clearly Golden State didn't adjust to very well, especially on the road, number 1. Number 2, I think game 1 took a lot out of them
Mhm.
because they had to shoot so well. Because anybody else in that game, Houston's gonna blow their doors off.
That's right.
Okay, they were shooting that well in game one. Okay, so KD had a phenomenal game. You know, Draymond had a good game. Steph had a good game. They all shot the ball well. Okay, and they had to. Okay, they scored 113 points, and they didn't shoot the ball as well in game two. Okay, that might have been a little bit of fatigue, but Houston was at home. They made the adjustment. Now you have to adjust it. Is that a blip? No, you got two of the better teams in the West, in the NBA, playing against each other. In the past, you know, historically, you look at some of the best basketball rivalries. You go back to the old Lakers and Celtics when they played. So there was a lot of blowouts in those games. One game will be ultra competitive. The next game will be a blowout. Especially it's usually the home team that gets that getaway game. That's what we saw here. It's imperative for Houston to take the first game when they get back to Arco. I'm sorry, the arena. It's imperative that they do that. Why? Because it could be down 3-1. Okay, so they need to come with the same game plan, force Golden State to make those adjustments defensively. If they do that, they'll make this a series. Okay, I just think that being at home, that second game, they made the adjustment. Yes, Steve Kerr was very frustrated because they didn't adjust. But I'm telling you, the way they had to shoot in game one coming out to take that first game, it takes a lot to take the number one seed, 2-0 going back home. Even though we know we're defending champs, it ain't like they brought Chris Paul over there to pop popcorn and drink coffee. He playing his game. You gotta give him credit. Then you gotta give Houston a lot of credit in game two for adjusting. They were shooting the ball well to start, so they've been shooting the ball well anyway in this series. Okay, and making that adjustment and getting other people involved was just what the doctor ordered.
Well, one of the things that was interesting about a lot of this, one of these things that was interesting about a lot of this stuff is that, D'Antoni didn't build his reputation on defense, right? So, at some point you're like, you have to stop. You're going to have like a couple trips you're going to have to stop. And I think what Chris Paul adds to the table is that little wrinkle. He's such a, he's an opposing personality. I think some ways being able to get, and I think they built a really good relationship. I think he's able to put those lineups on the floor with guys who can play defense at the same time, can still play his offense. He found and a lot of that, starts with having a strong person in the middle who can actually rebound, right? Having people who can actually run the floor, having some bigs who can be versatile in that way. And I think that's part of why he's been able to make the adjustments. But, a couple people who have played for him were like, he's not going to adjust. He's a cat who won't adjust lineups. He won't do some cats. If you ain't playing, you ain't in a rotation, he's shortening his lineup. But he appeared to have a little more wrinkle and add some people on. And there's some times we sat James a little bit longer, so then it allowed for Gordon to get off. Because Gordon has kind of been in the witness protection program. He hasn't been the kind of scorer he should be. He's an elite scorer. He hasn't shot well at all. But last night he really came out and played in a way that kind of gave them some energy in life. And so, I think that's the kind of program or process that an adjustment I felt he would have to make if he wanted to win a championship. Now, if he just wanted to be competitive and take his team to Game 7, he could play the way he wanted to. But every coach, Saban found this out there are times when you just got to go away from your own conventional wisdom, where you got to do whatever you think it takes to win, which might be something that you're not used to doing. And I think that's the part that I see that level of adjustment that he knows he's going to do. And when you understand, they talked about this week about his history with Kerr, when Kerr was his general manager, and the tension that happened between them. And so there's a little competitiveness. I know they're probably men and their friends, but there's a number of reasons why they don't want to lose this. right?
Right.
And
Right.
but to beat this team that is so talented at all 5 spots and be interchangeable with bench players, he gonna have to tweak some things. And I saw in the game too, pace changed, ball movement changed. It wasn't as many possessions held in Harden's hands and in that way, in CP3's hands, but that they were still doing some of that stuff. But then they would get the ball and they would get other people into those pick and roll options. There are times when you had the pick and roll action happening from the wing, and so Capella was more involved on all ends on defense, more active. I think having him pick up KD every once in a while, 94 feet was really good. So he was able to stretch. I mean, there's just some things that they were doing that told me that, he wants us bad enough to kind of go away from his pattern and his MO. So that's the part that was real. So Phoenix gets the number 1 pick. Ooh. The Cavs, The Cavs get the 8th pick.
They got the 8th pick.
And I did text Game Changer and Phil. I'm trying to look at what I said to them. I said, at the 8th pick, this, I thought at the 8th pick, and I'm trying to find this text that I sent them because I kind of gave them the players that I thought would be, really beneficial to them at that pick. And part of it was because they got some needs, and they're in an interesting place because no matter what LeBron does, I think they have to act as if when you look at what some of these rookies have done and contribute at multiple levels, not just the top 3 picks and people who have been contributing like Fultz didn't really do much, but when you think about what the benefit they're getting in Boston and you think about some of those things and you think about who might be available for them at the pick. So the 3 people I thought would help them if LeBron stayed or if he leaves. And actually then there was a 4th one because that Marcus added on, but I didn't know if he was going to be there at this point. Is Bridges from Villanova.
Villanova, yeah.
And you see a theme here. And then Miles Bridges from Michigan State and Colin Sexton. And the reason why I said that is these are 3 players who will give you it on both ends.
Mm-hmm.
And what they need right now, and Marcus talked about this a lot when he talked about their ability to play against Golden State, is their ability to have guys who can go 2-way. The thing about Golden State, for the most part, they got guys who can play 2-way. And I think Houston has kind of built their team in that because they got Harden them committing a little bit more on defense, that they guys who are playing both ways team defense. But these are young guys, 2 of them who've got a lot of playing time and got enough under their belt where they can come in with that maturity, where they can come in and be ready to play. There's a 4th person they added. I just didn't know if he was going to be there, is Michael Porter Jr. So when you look at a chance to get any one of those 4, this draft is deep. This is a GM's draft. And so if they can get strong, and all those guys are either can help them at the 2 or the point, if they need a person at the point, but they can spot up. So LeBron can operate. He can kick it to them. They can all shoot. And Bridges can improve it. But I mean, Bridges, both of them Bridges. But Miles and Mikal Bridges are both great wing defenders.
Mm-hmm.
Like and they've learned how to play under really good coaches, and they can rebound. So Miles actually can guard. He was saying today when they interviewed him, he think he can guard. He's down to 220. He can guard all. He said in the way they're playing right now, he might be able to guard all 5 spots. So in some ways, you almost got a guy who's almost like a Draymond, who's strong. So when I look at it, one of the things I was arguing about LeBron is that I'm not sure if he his best option may be the team he's on, because if you got this team, you look at it, if you take some of these young guys, he's got a training camp and a full summer with him. You can figure out how to get Rodney Hood more integrated into your offense. You can figure out, he's got a lot of good pieces. George Hill has been. If we're gonna talk about Steph playing hurt, George Hill has been playing hurt for like throughout the whole playoffs. Hasn't been able to do much. It's something that can allow you to really engage and be connected in you know, they are set up to be successful whether they have LeBron or not. Meaning that they're not going to have a high level of success, but the transition they thought they were going to have, I think they can have a smoother transition with the guys they got. And they could have a team that could be a poor man's version of what Boston has now, right? Mm-hmm. If it gives Ty Lue a chance to actually coach young guys without all the drama. Like Ty Lue has not even coached without the drama. Think of if he could coach drama free, without any of this hanging over his head, where he could just actually coach these young guys. You might have an opportunity, if they're smart enough to keep Ty, to do kind of what Brad is doing in Boston. So, especially if you get those kind of players who got their own set of Bridges from Michigan State, I'm still trying to – he's got big tools, but I like to see a little bit more dog in him, meaning like a much more aggressiveness. But Bridges from Villanova and Colin Sexton, they got dog in them. Porter, we just didn't see enough of. Right. So when you think about where they at with that pick, in even if they, let's say, lose to Boston, what do you say are their options with their picks?
Listen, first of all, let me just say this, that I'm very, very disappointed with my home team in this draft being as deep as it is. They would have had the 12th pick, okay? But they traded it away to the Clippers, right? To get what's his name? I'm frustrated by it, just because Blake to get Blake, and I'm frustrated by that because, as you stated, this is a deep draft. Okay, there's going to be a player to be got at the 12th pick, but to finish our conversation, at the 8th pick, provided that LeBron James does not hold the Cleveland Cavaliers hostage. Make a decision. Okay, are there some guys on this team that they're not going to re-up with? Okay, if LeBron decides I'm going to stay in Cleveland, to me, Mikal Bridges is a no-brainer if he's there. 8. Okay, you've got your Kyrie back with attitude. Young man, he's a natural-born leader. We saw that. He's a great defender, and he shoots the lights out. He is the player of the year this year in college basketball, and the most complete player, in my opinion, in the draft. Okay, now if he goes, okay, then you got a toss up, because you cannot argue the upside of Miles Bridges. You simply cannot. That he has the most upside of any player coming out, in my opinion. Outside of the big man from Arizona, but I think it's a done deal. I think Phoenix is going to get him. They should keep him right there at home. First of all, if nothing else, that's going to be a big ticket sale for them if they do that. But we talked about Sexton the entire time during the tournament. About this kid is somebody that a lot of America don't know about because he played at Alabama. But he would be a steal at that spot too. All right. But I think that if anybody's paying attention, like if you're in Milwaukee or somebody like that, take a good look at him. You got the pick before Cleveland. Cleveland is going to get a player. They're going to get a quality player. Okay. The concern you have with Cleveland is with what we're seeing out of Boston, with what Milwaukee, who picks before Cleveland, can do. Okay. You see Washington, who also picks before Cleveland. Okay, these are playoff teams that's got picks before the Cavaliers. What do? All right, but I think that if I'm LeBron James and I make the decision, okay, I'm going to stay in Cleveland, then you have to do all you can do to go get Mikal Bridges. In my opinion, that to me, that 1-2 combination, it gets you through the East with ease. In my opinion, okay, the kid's going to give you some defense. Now you can make some real roster decisions based upon that right there, okay, and what you can do to get yourself back to championship caliber, because that kid can play right away.
That's right.
All right, he can play right away, and like I said, he's a natural leader. Okay, he can play the point. He's going to distribute, and that takes a lot of pressure off of LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I don't have to come down and find nobody. I can go down on the block and be dominant, or I can go out on the arc and be dominant. That's going to cause all kinds of matchup problems. This kid also knows how to dribble. I mean, penetrate to the hole. He's old school.
Yeah.
So I love his game. We saw it up close and personal. Okay. So to me, I think he would be the natural pick. But again, you talk about Miles Bridges, you talk about the other kid from Michigan State, all of them projected first rounders.
Mm-hmm.
Even our boy over here in Ann Arbor is expected to, they got him projected going late to the Golden State Warriors. Which would be interesting.
Man, he go to Golden State Warriors. My goodness, that would be loaded down. Oh my goodness.
Mo Wagner, they got him projected in some draft to go there. Yeah, that would be something to see. And just think about the development of a player like that. To go to team a championship team like that. But you mentioned Porter. Again, some draft experts have him going to Washington. So these are players out here that again, will they fall to Cleveland? I don't know, but Cleveland will have an opportunity if they do their homework to have an impact player. But like I said, when I think about the Pistons and the fact that they absolutely butchered that, they could you want to be able to build through the draft, again, that troubles me now when you see how deep this draft is.
That is the one struggle that I had with Van Gundy when he was hired. And I'm not gonna. Where they were before, I thought Van Gundy could at least make him competitive in the East. But the one problem I have with Van Gundy is he's this old school kind of veterans first thing, and would give up picks in an era where those picks are valuable. And so, depending on where they go, in terms of the Pistons, getting it, I do think they're going to get better just by new energy with the roster they have. If they can do something to clean up on a point, I do think there's in the second round they can get some really good point guards. I mean, you're talking about the one young man from Wichita State. I saw him playing. He's a point guard that they had starting out there. He was like seen as probably a Wooden Award winner type person. Like, this is a guy who 6'4" point guard. As soon as they're talking about him, I'm thinking this is a guy that can play for the Pistons. They need a guy who can be a floor general. He's got size. And so when you think about, when I watched them play, I felt good about their wings, the front line, everything else. I didn't feel good about their point guard play. When you saw them, they couldn't get into sets. They lost that game against Chicago. I saw Levine's comeback game, and the difference was execution. Chicago had better execution from the point guard getting in their play, and they scored the game winner, whereas Detroit didn't. And part of it was a coaching philosophy of coaching every possession down the floor. The other thing is that you didn't see the point guard play. If you had Rozier on that team, they would be dominant. And so they got Ish Smith, who I think can be a Rozier type, but I don't think he ever got the freedom or the confidence. I mean, that's the difference between when you put confidence in. I think he could be. I watch him. He has glimpses of that. He has toughness. With the right coach, I think he can do something. Jackson goes down, gets hurt, and they kind of slide and hurt, versus Kyrie goes down and Rozier goes up. And I think Ish Smith has at least Rozier level talent in my mind when I watch him, but he just doesn't have the confidence and the support to be in winning situations in the same way. Right. So I think that's a team that you got to watch in the East. I mean, Milwaukee just hired was it Brudheiser or whatever his name is from Atlanta? Didn't he get hired? Did he go to the Bucks? I think he might have gone to the Bucks.
The Bucks, yeah.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting. He built a really good team. I mean, he comes from that. He comes from that San Antonio tree that everybody's trying to tap into. And I think part that's missing about the San Antonio tree is that tree was really built in the same way I would say the Utah tree was built. you hire a coach and you stick with the philosophy. You get buy-in from your top talent about a culture and a philosophy, and you run with it. And we're gonna do our way, and if they can get Giannis to say, hey, this is going to be our philosophy, we want you to be the Tim Duncan of this thing. We're going to build around you. We're going to do player development. We're going to do all those things because we have to build our own from the end. We're not always going to get big free agents. We got to be strategic about our free agency, right? That can win. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Central is going to be an interesting place moving forward. When you think about Chicago, some young guys they got there, Milwaukee, if Cleveland doesn't watch out, it could be flipped. It could be flipped on you. And they just, I feel like they are when they lost, remember they lost Ron Harper. You start to see that they were an elite program. And you can't discount the way in which LeBron, who I love him for his business acumen, has set up the negotiations. Because they can't get out of this without at least having a 2 or 3 year window. And he ain't giving it to him. And for a lot of good reasons why, when you think about where he's at in his career. He doesn't have 2 or 3 year windows he can really push out on. He can't get locked. I mean, it's a crazy space he's in. And I sent the text to Game Changer and Phil, and I said, if I'm Cleveland, I'm secretly hoping he leaves with this situation. Because when I laid out the situation and who they had left, I'm like, you're going to have sympathy for the fans, for the most part. They knew at some point he was going to go. They got the chip. So you won't have the burning. And you might get a decent pick, and you got some young guys who you picked up in a trade who actually can kind of play. Rodney Hood can play. You don't average 18 a game, and go into a witness protection program.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, Rodney can play. Maybe Kevin Love steps up and becomes Kevin Love from Minnesota without all the hype and pressure over him, right? Where he can just be himself. Now he's the face and leader. Maybe he's a different kind of leader. You can grow. You got some kids on the bench who haven't played as much as you draft. You got the one kid don't they have to the kid out of Detroit or whatever? Really good point guard, I thought, out of Michigan. Who's a good player who's not really seeing any time, right? Because LeBron wants veterans. They all pushing for veterans, and so they not get what Boston get. They don't get enough rookies on the floor. You know what I'm saying? So that's part of the problem LeBron's got is that your energy gonna come from these rookies, these cats who never. If you watch Golden State. McCall, a lot of these kids, or where some of these kids they got playing right now, start out in their G League. They play now. They playing with the world champions. They get good minutes under Steve Kerr in a way that you don't quite see them get good minutes in Cleveland. And a lot of that's not just with Ty Lue. This is LeBron. This is management. It's a whole bunch of stuff. Ty don't have the same freedom that Brad Stevens has.
No, this is a sense of urgency. There's a sense of urgency.
A sense of urgency
with LeBron James, trying to sustain a legacy of championships and playoff runs.
Yeah,
and that's why they had the wholesale roster change in the middle of the season. You just don't see teams do that. You try to tweak your roster a little bit here, a little bit there to get ready. But you think about the wholesale changes that they say, that's unprecedented, all right, for this team. And then to try to make a run here. So, I agree with you. It would probably be in the best interest of Cleveland in the long run.
That's right.
In the long run to bid LeBron adieu and go ahead and try to build them a team where they have a chance in the East to once again really build a solid squad to take on the Bostons, who's unhealthy and making this run, the Milwaukees and the Philadelphias. And see, we don't even mention them.
Yeah.
Okay, because they're the heir apparent if you ask a lot of people.
That's right.
Okay, so if you're LeBron and you're talking about, okay, I'm going to stick it out, you still got a Philly team right now that's loaded. And now they've got some playoffs. And now they've tasted the playoffs a little bit. Okay, they've tasted a playoff victory. Okay, and that team is going to be loaded for bear next year. All right. So what are you going to do with this team now? you can make the argument that even if they go and pick up a Mikal Bridges, that I think we believe would be the best fit with LeBron James on the team, that they're still maybe not even the third best team in the East.
Yeah.
Given what you know that the East is going to be coming in next year. It may not even be the third, even not even the fourth best team. Okay? So those are the things that, as I stated, LeBron, make a decision so that this team can move on, because you're going to do what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And I don't think that it's good for the Cleveland Cavaliers every year to deal with, does he stay, does he go? That becomes a distraction. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, and I think those are some of the things that I think will be, really important when we, as we start moving forward and getting closer to, draft day, we start to see how this unfolds. We start getting the free agency for the NBA. In some ways, it also frees up cap room probably for the Cavs too. So you don't know what they'll do in free agency, who they might bring back. They might not bring back a LeBron level star, but they could bring back somebody else that might be there. So this chess game, but a lot of this is dictated about how you feel about how you go out. And I think one of the biggest things that if I'm a manager and I'm a GM for Cavs, we getting bullied. And not, and nobody's standing up. LeBron ain't standing up. Nobody's standing up. These cats are just junkyard dogging us. And we Cleveland. Like there's something about the kind of city we are that we just ain't gonna put up. We can't put up with this. So that there's some of that. Like, do we have the heart to? Is this worth fighting for? If we just can't do the basic, I'm gonna stand up and get in your face. I mean, they go after JR and cats ain't even jumping in. Now I know JR was probably the instigator of that, but that still didn't matter. You watch the Pistons, old Pistons. Don't care who was the instigator. We still gonna come to their defense, and we'll talk about it later in the locker room, right? And same thing with Golden State. If every time Draymond's instigating, but they all coming in. And they're going to talk to Draymond later about it. Only person who might not jump in there is Steph, but they all going to come in and defend it, and they'll talk to Draymond about it later. And so it's some of those things that are going to hopefully feed in. If I'm a GM, going to feed in, like, what's the character of my team? With him or without him? And almost in the way that Toronto was looking at it, where the GM was looking at it. Hassan was looking at it. He was saying, I got to think to the future and like, what's the capacity of this team given the talent, and how are we going to maximize that given who we are? And you got to ask those kind of critical questions. And some of that you might act like you holding on to him, but you're going to really let him go. Like make every public iteration like you want to do whatever you need to hold on to him, but it might be it's time for us all to go. You put the decision on him, and we want him. It's up to him. We want him. But this time we'll respect whatever he does. He's done a lot for us. Mm-hmm. He brought a chip to Cleveland, and we need to celebrate him no matter what. We don't need to be reacting in the streets. He's earned the right to decide. Like, they could take a different approach to this in a way that allows him, even gives him a little bit more latitude to go and not feel bad he got to go. And because they got the pieces. When you think about the young guys they got, like Jordan, some of these guys, Larry Nance Jr., some of these guys, they got some talent on there. And maybe you get a Colin Sexton who got dog in him to go in there on offense with you. Now you might spring up and get alive right away. Who's pushing for Rookie of the Year, who's gonna be pissed that he picked 8 because he believed he should be number 1. Like you get a kid like that who think he look at the rest of these cats like they ain't better than me. How are they number 1? Who got that in his mind. You get a guy who got dog in him like that to go with Kevin, you might have something different. Now maybe, and you could end up being 4th or 5th. You was what, 3rd this year? You see what I'm saying? So you, without all the emotion, without everybody having to go to work to figure out, like they're not, I said it's like having that staff member. This is what you and I are gonna be able to relate on. I can talk to you. It's like having that elite staff member who you always got to make sure everything's right for. And at a certain point, you go, I got to let you go. And when they're gone, you feel out how emotionally free you are. No matter what talent they brought to the organization, how good they were, the emotional relief freed us up to even be greater. It was addition by subtraction.
Right.
That is what Cleveland's got to decide.
You're absolutely right. It comes down to, and see, this is the piece that we don't think about. Okay, LeBron is 35 years old.
That's right.
Okay, now that might not sound old to you or me, right? But consider the fact that he came into the NBA out of high school at 18. Okay, so that's what, 17 years in the league at the highest level.
That's right.
Now that takes a lot. Now him being LeBron James, let's go all the way back to when he was playing in the playoffs against the Pistons, when he lost his first finals against the San Antonio Spurs, who, oh, by the way, Tim Duncan was playing back then. Okay, so you're talking about a long history of playoff basketball. All right. Now we talk about the state of the Cleveland Cavaliers. You're talking about a team that, you're absolutely right, they got some guys that can play. They got some guys that are going to develop. They're going to be a very good basketball team for a long time. Are they championship caliber? Are they championship caliber? Are they the next great team to come out the East? Is the question you got to ask yourself. Does LeBron James have it to dial it up again? And what if it don't work? Are you going to retool your whole roster again? And do you have it in you to do it again? Okay.
That's right.
These are things that, these are things we're talking about, are things that speak to the greatness of a LeBron James. Okay. A generational talent. There's no question about it. I don't care what you think about the guy, I don't care how polarizing he is. What he does on the court is phenomenal. Okay. What he's done in his history of being in the playoffs for as many years as he's been in the playoffs, deep into the playoffs, is historic in and of itself. But the problem that you start running into is, if you're talking about a moderate rebuild with the Cleveland Cavaliers, which you kind of went through in the middle of the season.
That's right.
Now you talking about going into the draft. Do you have to do you have it what it takes to carry a team through the playoffs again at 36 years old? I don't care if you're LeBron James. Okay, you're one nagging injury away. Okay, so I understand his desire to be with veterans. Because veterans, I don't have to teach. I don't have to coach. I just got to go out here and play. They're going to be where they need to be. Okay? Does that dictate his move? It really got to depend upon who's doing what.
Yeah.
All right? And even if you get you a talent like a Mikal Bridges or a Sexton or a Miles Bridges or whoever is out there, you're still talking about a rookie that's coming in with great expectations but no experience in the pro game. And now you got to go through. So all of these things. And you talk about Cleveland with being bullied. Well, the one thing I will say, okay, let's go back to talk about Boston for a hot second. And this is a team that was written off the minute Kyrie Irving got hurt. When Hayward went down with the bad broken leg, when Kyrie went down, this team was written off. And those guys came with some they saw blood in the water. Okay? And they took that upon themselves to raise their game to another level. Bravo. All right. And they knew that LeBron was going to get his. And they came with that, well, let him get all he wants. Just don't make sure these other four cats don't beat you.
That's
and
right.
That's what's going to happen. And so LeBron had to bail him out against Indiana. He had to bail him out. Well, he didn't really have to bail him out too much against Toronto. They just kind of just rolled over and played dead. But if he gets through Boston, right now, we know if he does it, it's a long series. It's at least 6 games, right? Maybe even 7. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, he turns into the ultimate Superman, and they get through this series. Now you got to go against 2 of the most elite teams in the league by yourself. You see, how much does that take out of you going forward, going into next season? See, these are things that I know he's contemplating right now.
Yeah.
I can't do this. Okay, I can't do this much longer. I want another chip, like you said. I got to go where I can get one. Okay, Cleveland. I mean, he might be looking at them young kids down the road in Philadelphia. All right, and said I can go down there and still take the East, and now I know I got some thoroughbreds, and I can take them to the next level. See, these are things that I know he's thinking about. He's trying to get him one more because it's not guaranteed he's getting older.
Yeah, and I think the Philly is a hard one because you got the future LeBron, and when you're looking at Simmons, he doesn't have a jump shot. He's basically doing what LeBron is, and so you got a guy who's basically playing the same way. if I'm Philly, I mean, I love LeBron. I'm not taking LeBron. And part of it is I got these young guys. I mean, I need some vets, but I need some vets who can do something different. And so that would be that would be the thing. I mean, the guys he has, if he goes to a training camp with these guys and they can expand and get guys like Rodney Hood involved in the offense who can also play defense. Like Rodney Hood can be a two-way player for you. You got Jordan. This is a young kid who's got a lot of talent, got a lot of up, but needs to be trained. But he can go at it. He can get at it. So they got some players, but you're gonna have to allow them to grow and have a training camp. You can't build like this is the only team I know. Like you can't make an evaluation of bringing a whole new team in the half season. Like to do what they're doing now is amazing. It has a lot to do with LeBron, but they basically turn their roster over in the middle of the season, and they possibly are making a charge for making it to the finals. That has a lot to do with Ty Lue. That has a lot to do with LeBron. That has a lot to do with like create a transitional culture. And if you can look at that, you got like, okay, you got a lot of young people. You add in a nice piece here in the draft. You know, maybe you move some veterans out, add some other pieces in. They could be there, but part of it's how you build that second unit, how you get LeBron's minutes down, and you could do it by raising up people like Rodney Hood, who proven in a tough Western Conference he can average 18 points. Mm-hmm. If he can do it 18 points in the Western Conference, you tell me he can't do 18 in the East? He can't do both ways with you and give you that consistent scoring where you can maybe have him and Kevin running that second unit when they can run screen roll. So I think they just need an offseason of lack of drama. You know, LeBron signed a 2-year deal, and let's try to plan with this group. You got some young people, but you got to empower them. So that's to me is the best route for him because the East is still easy to be win. He still got him under his spell if he get these young guys integrated and George Hill, giving George Hill a summer to heal and have him come back and be that George Hill who can score 17 double figures still. Right now, he's basically gimping through the playoffs. Well, give him a rest. What does he give you if he's starting the season with you? That's a different team. You might be able to put JR back with that second unit. Now, JR is like your microwave. So there's a lot you can do with that roster, but he got to rethink, kind of like Isaiah did. Rethink, you know, what I need to do within that space. Well, you listen to Real Sports, guys. One mic. We're on RSG Live Lounge. We're doing it right. This is how we get down. We've gone from the audio to the visual. It's with Hank Davis and DeVon Wilson. And you might have seen me looking down. I look like Adam Schefter. I was down here, and I'm working on interviews. We got some great interviews coming up. You've heard him on the audio. Hopefully, we'll see him on video. Is the newest free agent, rookie free agent signing for the Minnesota Vikings, Garrett Dooley. We'll have him on. Looking forward to interviewing Garrett Dooley on our. We'll have an excerpt. We'll drop so everybody can hear it, but we'll have his full interview on RSG Live Lounge. And then our man, Alton, the Bowman Cunningham. He's been working his way up the MMA ranks. Started out here in Wisconsin. He's ranked 4th in Wisconsin, 3rd in Minnesota, 18th overall in the Midwest. But he's got a fight coming up here on Dana White's Contenders. Now he's getting to the big stage. We're looking forward to checking in. He promised he would check in with us along his journey. And so we'll be having a podcast coming out. I was texting back and forth. He was in training camp, getting ready for his fight coming up here in July and letting us know when he would be available. This is how we do it at RSG. You know, while we're on air, I ain't got an executive producer. I'm the executive producer. I'm all in the video. You know, and I'm trying to do this. So you might have seen me doing my Adam Schefter up in here trying to get it going. So we got it all going. But one of the things I want to make sure that I do all the time, I think it's one of our gyms that's going to be growing, is Inside the Park. It's always like, you know, we've been trying, as baseball is kind of gaining on momentum. It's kind of a sport that's kind of getting warm in people's hearts. You know, they've had a new commissioner who's been leveraging technology. You got one of the things I want to talk to Hank about after this is about the gambling. And I think baseball, even though they're pushing back, this may be something that might even enhance baseball and experience in a way, the in-park experience, with the change of some of these laws around here in terms of the game experiences, what you can be able to do. But baseball's taking on, we've always, and I've been trying to shed some light on it. Hank has been helping me along with RJ and all the folks back in the day, just really kind of reinvigorating my interest in baseball. So I always look forward to this. So we want to give you a little tease of Inside the Park with my man, Hank.
Yeah, it's that time. It's getting warmer outside. The game is starting to round out, and as I was telling you guys last week, you're starting to see some teams start to flex their muscles a little bit. We knew Boston and New York was going to go back and forth. I talked a little bit about what that heavyweight fight's going to be all year. But you know what? I got to give you a little bit of good news and bad news for this week, okay? The good news is my boy, JV, Justin Verlander. Detroit Tiger, we was hoping for life, but it didn't work out that way. Got his chip down there in Houston. Well, he just recorded his 2,500th strikeout. 2,500 strikeouts. I mean, think about that, okay? That you taking cats out, you still blowing cats away, okay? That is quintessential Hall of Fame stuff, folks, okay? You think about hitters. Think about this. You got hitters that make it to the Hall of Fame, a milestone of getting 3,000 hits. 3,000 hits, okay? You get one swing at the bat, you get yourself a hit. Justin's you got to get 3 strikes on the cat. I got to throw the ball at least 3 times to get you out, okay? The wear and tear on the arm, okay? And this dude knocked out 2,500 batters, major league hitters in his career. Congratulations to Justin Verlander. I bring that up to really recognize the milestone. But secondly, because of who he struck out for his 2,500 strikeout, okay? That was the big deal. Who he struck out was our man. We've been talking about him all year long. Captain Action. Shohei Ohtani. Now if that ain't theater for you, I don't know what it is. They was playing the Angels out there. Shohei Ohtani hitting home runs and some everything else. Lo and behold, boom, strikeout. Shohei Ohtani was 2,500. Great milestone. That's the good news. Bad news, I got to bring it up, is about my boy. Don't you know, Robinson Cano. Tell me it ain't so, Robinson Cano. Lord have mercy. Robinson Cano has been suspended for 80 games, D. 80 games for testing positive for a masking agent in his urine for a banned substance. Now, this is sad because Robinson Cano, great second baseman for the Yankees all them years, okay? Great ambassador for the World Baseball Classic, all right, for Dominican Republic. Next thing you know, PED use. Tragedy, man. It's hurt my heart. Hurt my heart. Then you go and you find out, and see, when they always interview guys, like, what happened? Then you go talk to some of his ex-players. That's the thing about folks, they won't throw you under the bus, right? But then they go ask you, man, you don't have to Robinson? I ain't surprised that happened to Robinson, What do you mean you're not surprised? Well, I ain't got nothing to say. Well, you just said it. What you talking about? You talking about Mark Teixeira. Mark Teixeira retired from the Yankees in 2016. They had an interview with Mark Teixeira. He's like, it all depends on who you hanging out with, okay? So I guess if I'm hanging out with D and a couple of his boys, I guess we're supposed to all be assumed to be intellectuals, right, D? But I guess Robinson Cano was hanging out with cats from Balco. You remember Balco, right?
That's right.
Okay. Balco was the dude, that got A-Rod suspended for the whole year. That Melky Cabrera was a part of. They said, oh, yeah, Robinson was one of their boys, too. Okay, but you ain't said nothing. Balco said was years ago. You gonna talk about it now? Well, I ain't trying to throw the brother under the bus. He just been suspended for 80 games. For real. And then he goes on to say, well, there's some cats in the Hall of Fame that just never got caught. I was like, okay, what else you want to tell us? Mark, come on, keep it coming. I don't want to say nothing. But this is a tragedy because, again,
how come he didn't blame it on the beef? Like Canelo. Why he just?
They always say, hey, what gets me? They talk to Robinson Cano. They, well, what happened? Well, I was taking this cold medication, and it tested positive. But I just hit a baseball 485 feet when I've never done that before to left field, the opposite field, and I'm left-handed. All right, but it ain't nothing to be concerned about. But let me tell you something, okay? These sort of things. The Robinson, we just talked about LeBron. Robinson, 35 years old, long baseball career. Let me tell you something right now. For somebody who still try to play a little bit of the game to try to stay in shape, I promise you, the longer you play, the more it hurt. And the more it hurt, the longer you play. Okay? And I can tell you, he might not have been taking nothing to get strong no more. Anything I can take to keep my ankles from hurting, my knees from swelling, from my arm from hurting, I'm taking it. I don't care if it's my dog. And that might be a banned substance too. But that's just baseball for the day. I had to give y'all a little bit of that and kind of lighten it up. But I feel bad for you, Robbie. Tell me it ain't so, Robinson Cano. But that's y'all's tease for baseball. Y'all stay tuned. Got some Inside the Parks to come up for you. We're gonna break it all down. Stay tuned.
And you can catch all of Hank's past Inside the Parks if you have Apple Podcasts or any of the podcasts. Just search Real Sports Guys under the catalog. Look for Inside the Park. It's there. You got some gems. You can go old school, go back in the day. If I were to go back in the day and check out some of the old school stuff they've done back, and Hank has kind of been keeping that flagship going. Can appreciate it. The way this is going, we might have to bring this one to video, get off audio to video, kind of get him his own space.
You can't do that.
That's got to stay radio. That's got to stay radio. That's old school.
I go crazy. Boy, you telling me, you kidding me? I have some visuals for y'all know if that happens. I got some visuals.
We're going to give you the teaser. So that's it right there. Before we close and drop the mic, obviously Supreme Court came back and said that the federal government couldn't tell states whether or not they can have gambling. They did leave a window open for regulation. Because it's the federal government's responsibility to do regulation. They can't really tell you whether or not to make sure there's consistency across things, and so that's still to be determined. I was in New Jersey, where obviously they were the epicenter of Governor Christie was the epicenter of this whole discussion. He was kind of the lead person on this. He was on the air everywhere, national news, but folks in Jersey are talking about this big time as well. I just think it's time coming. It's kind of like the whole conversation about use of marijuana, things like that. I think it's time coming with fantasy and everything else. Teams, it's funny. The NBA has just been in the middle. They've been on the league side, but at the same time, they've been prepping for this decision, trying to make sure that they get a percentage because of the fact they provide the entertainment, they provide the content that people are betting on. So a lot of this is changing. So it feels like, betting is coming to a place near you. What was your reaction when you heard this, the ruling come down? What do you think it means for the future of sports entertainment? We just talked about baseball. One of the things that Mark Cuban even came out and said, hey, baseball's back in it again. It can make the in-game experience more enjoyable when you're sitting there. So, as someone who's watching baseball, you're involved in football, you've been around hockey. That's one of the great things about growing up in Southeastern Michigan. Mm-hmm. These sports have been elite a lot of different ways. Lions, but still great experience. But it's always in your face. We're near Canada, so, people go across the border for a lot of stuff. There's a lot of business interest in even a state like Michigan. It's a border state. What does it mean? When you have a ruling like this come down, and is it much to do about nothing, or is there some other concerns that we should have?
No, I think that is a good idea that is regulated. I think that for a lot of communities, okay, like Detroit, in areas like that, where they've already got some standing casino. Well, now you can start putting sports gambling in here legally in these states, okay, and in other areas. It's going to help in that regard, okay? I think that first and foremost, that's what you look at. What kind of revenue will legal sports gambling bring in? Because that's the first piece. The second piece, again, it keeps folks from getting popped on something stupid.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, because let's face it, the folks who going to gamble on sports going to gamble on sports. All right. And those who don't, they ain't. But then they might have. Then you got those borderliners that are now more intrigued into doing it, and not over the top concerned. The downside is if it's regulated by the federal government, how much of the piece of the pie does the federal government get? But again, I think that just to say that now states can do what they want to do with it, I think it makes a lot of sense. One person in particular should be elated now that sports gambling is now legal is Pete Rose. Maybe he can now use that in some sort of failed offense to get into the Hall of Fame. You know, he said that betting on baseball was legal back then we wouldn't have no issue. So that's the one. When I first heard about it, first thing I thought about was Pete Rose.
Let's get our Pete Rose shirts. We'll wear them out here. I'm like, he should be with all the other crazy they got going on in the hall. Pete Rose should at least be in the Hall of Fame. But I'm on the other side of that one. I'll get it. Well, hey, this has been good. You know, as we close, I will drop the mic on this podcast and say that, you know, I was having a lot of discussion about LeBron and LeBron James's decisions and what's been going on. We're talking about the Cavs. But one of the things I was talking to someone about is that we had this great conversation in a meeting I was in, and people were saying, you know, what is this about LeBron, and particularly people who are on the fringe who really didn't know sports or whatever. I said, one thing that's going to be great about LeBron James that people aren't really paying attention to is the impact that he's had, and you and I have talked about this before, on much bigger issues, and doing it at the same time as he's been elite in sport. You've had folks who've been elite in sports, kind of dibbled and dabbled in things, and then excelled once they left the sport, where they could pay attention to it full time. But he's developed a system where he's been elite in media and entertainment. He's been a force politically by moving things. At the same time, he's getting 40 points and a triple-double. And to me, that is what is amazing about the power of sports. Then this week, he hit you again. People ask him about what happened, and he just recalled play-by-play. Now, Hank and I know, as people who play sports, that's something we just do because you pay attention enough. Those moments mean enough you can recall. But even his recall was much more better detailed than most people who even play sports. To tell you to the level of detail that this young man, I call him a young man because he's younger than us, has. You know, I think all the stuff we've been having about him, the only thing I can feel is that we are not going to appreciate him until he's gone. You've been naming songs and everything else, but you know, there's a lot of songs where they talk about you not appreciating until you're gone. And we are just not. I'm learning to cherish him. I'm learning to cherish KD. I'm learning to cherish, as much as I can be critical, and I always have my critical mind. The one thing I am trying to turn on more is to cherish these moments that I'm watching where I'm saying, wow, there's some incredible moments. You know, these guys are leaving the game in a really good spot, because we had a little era after Michael where we weren't sure where the sport was going to go.
Right.
But these guys have taken ownership of the sport in terms of the business of the sport. They've taken ownership of the sports responsibility to the greater society, and then they've taken their power and start to influence things externally. And nobody's done that better than LeBron James. And so I hope this is a message that we can begin to see in some of our other sports figures. This is something you can count on with us on Real Sports Guys. And so if you want to catch us again, check us out on all platforms. Come and join us in the RSG Lounge. Be early on this, because the first 1,000 people are getting a good deal to be in this lounge. If you're not in it, in that first 1,000, it could be something else. But we're building it one time at a time. We like the Nirvana. And we're looking to changing the game one step at a time. So thank you for being with us. Until next time, this is DeVon and Hank on RSG 1 Live on RSG Lounge Live. Peace.
Peace.
We're out of here.